Okay, so let's make a start. So today we're doing personal protective equipment. So by the end of today's Toolbox talk, you'll be familiar with your PPEs, what you need to wear and when. You will understand how to use your PPEs effectively, and you'll know what to do if you have any concerns. And I appreciate that the caveat to that is that you're all very experienced on site, and a lot of these make sense anyway. But in terms of our health and safety obligations, we do need to deliver this on a regular basis. So here we go. Personal protective equipment, I've categorised them into what's always required and what is as required. So you can see that we've got two sections here. We've got hard hat, high vis and safety boots are always required. They're your basic PPEs before you enter site. Now, I know that there's some nuance on site, so sometimes you can walk onto site to access changing facilities, and then some sites you have to be ready as you leave your car and access site. So do apply your common sense and wear that minimum protection so that you're safe on site. The items that I've categorised as required are your goggles and eye protection, your gloves, your respiratory protection, your ear defenders, and any additional specialist clothing. And that'll primarily relate to the task that you're carrying out. So this is where you get to interact with the presentation. So the question to consider and that you're voting on is what activity requires you to put on a face mask, the FFP3 face masks. Fabulous, yeah. So what all these items that everyone's voted for have in common is that they all generate some kind of dust particle, depending on what your the materials you're working in. So we've got brick, wood, and chopping out, which so it relates to the materials. So all different types of materials, and the reason why you're putting a face mask on is because excuse me, your nose and mouth will only do so much filtering. They're designed to filter particles from the atmosphere, but they can only cope with our natural environment. Anything additional, such as particles from dust or brickwork, needs an extra layer of protection so that your lungs can stay healthy as you age. Second fixing is not a dust generating activity and therefore not required. So the hard hat. Why we wear a hard hat? Well, it protects your brain, and the brain is essential for life, so we need to look after that. It guards us against injury from falling objects, that when you're walking through site, walking past scaffolding and so on. It also protects you if there's a slip or a trip and you bang your head. Reduces the likelihood of injury to the brain tissue, and it's a health and safety law requirement. As we've said, this is an item that you put on to enter site, and that's because you're protecting yourself from the activities that are going on around you. Chin straps may be indicated by some contractors, and you may need to consider the activities that you're doing. If there's a likelihood of your hat coming off whilst you're active at work, then you need to put a chin strap on to keep your hard hat on. And only remove when you've left site. I believe there's a caveat with this with our electricians, that when you're in your plot and there's no overhead activity, then your hard hat can come off. Look after your hard hats. If they look physically damaged and marked and lots of indentations, then you need to replace it. They do have an expiry date actually, so keep an eye on the expiry date and replace when it's no longer within date. And replace it if you do have impact from a falling item. If it becomes damaged, then you need to replace your helmet. Ear defenders are there to protect the delicate structures inside your ear. You need to wear them to reduce any damage to the structures, as I've said, but that will then have an impact on hearing. And, you know, we've got a long time in our working careers. So although we may be young and have brilliant hearing now, frequent exposure to high volumes of noise can cause damage and hearing loss when you're older. It's also a health and safety law requirement, so you are required by law to wear them, and that's why all sites will require you, if there's a lot of noise going on, to wear them, and that's why we ask you to wear them as well. You will wear them if noise on site is a sufficient level that you can't hear yourself, you can't hear normal volume conversation. So make that judgment call. If there's lots of stuff going on around site, choose to protect your ears. In terms of the activities that the electricians carry out, you need to be putting your ear defenders on when you're using your drills, hammers and power tools. And again, common sense in how to care for your ear defenders, keep them clean and tidy, get rid of any excess dust or debris from the day's work and store them safely. Check any padding, make sure it's all intact, and replace if they're damaged or they no longer fit you securely. Oh, this is an interesting one because I've answered this for you. Let's see if you were listening. When would you don ear defenders? When would you put them on? Okay, first two people voting, whoever's done those, you get top points for listening. That's great. The last couple that are plant machinery are brilliant, that are about to vote. Is there anything that I haven't mentioned that you can add into when ear defenders would be indicated, particularly our electricians that have been around, that have seen everything? Is there anything that you can suggest for our apprentices to look out for that we haven't already mentioned? Yeah, okay. So the general theme is if you're being exposed to high levels of noise, you need to take action and protect your ears. That can be the work you're doing or the work that's going on around you. If there's a lot of plant machinery, so I suppose as activity changes on site, so will the noise level. So be aware and do protect your ears. Just a final note on the tiny little structures that are inside your ears. They are very delicate and damage can be caused quite easily, even wearing headphones, the little ones that sit in your ear are starting to cause damage to the structures of the inner ear. And I think it's, as a good rule of thumb, if you can't hear normal conversation, then you need your ear defenders, or you might just need to turn your radio down. So use common sense as well. Okay, so this is just a reminder, just to check in that people are all up to date with what protections needed from your boots. So you've got a voting slide now. What out of the items listed is essential protection from your boots? Fabulous. Thank you, everybody that's voted. So yeah, I think they're ranked pretty accurately. All you 1, 2, 3, and 4 are all minimal standard. Your waterproof is just as required, really, if you choose to have waterproof boots. So your steel-toe caps, they'll protect you from anything falling, whether that's something you've dropped or that has fallen on site. Your arch plate protects you from all risk of treading on something and that penetrating the base of your boot. Ankle support to support around the ankles because of the unstable surface areas that you're often walking around on, and the non-slip slip base, same protection really, same reason. Waterproof is a nice item to have because I appreciate that sites can be wet and damp and muddy, but not a mandatory part of your boot protection. And your eye protection. So another delicate area of the body that needs to be protected because of the high risk environment that you work in. And this is to reduce injury to the eyes, secondary to work-related activities. And it's also, again, a health and safety law requirement. So that means you have an obligation to wear them, we have an obligation to make sure we provide them, and everyone that we work with, all our contractors, will enforce this or should enforce this. So when do you wear them? Well, you wear them if there's activity, you are carrying out activity that can create loose particles. So drilling out, hammers, power tools, nail guns, all those things, those types of activities can cause bits to come loose from the wood or the brickwork that you're working with. When you're working with compressed air, gas, liquid or vapour under pressure, such as canisters, and when you're using corrosive or irritant materials. So if you've got protection on your eyes, you're less likely to cause damage. Once again, I would also consider the environment, the work that's going on around you, walking up and down sites, high winds, all those kind of things. Because remember, sites, there's a lot of debris and dust particles around. So if the day is windy and blustery, then put some protection on your eyes. And how to care for them. Common sense applies. It's keep them clean, store them safely, replace if they become damaged or they're too loose. So if they're not fitting your face, they won't be giving you adequate protection. And sometimes there is a requirement for different grades of eye protection, and that information will be in the risk assessment. Now, if you're more of a junior member of the team and you're not necessarily seeing that paperwork, but you're worried, then just speak to the person that you're working with or Warren. And usually, if there's any additional PPEs needed, that will be discussed before work starts. So, when would you wear gloves? Okay, brilliant. So, lots of good suggestions there, lots for the apprentices to pick up on as well. I think it's really good to notice that the weather can be impactful. So if you're cold and your hands aren't moving effectively, you're increasing the likelihood of injury. So putting them on from protection from the elements is useful. You can see wet coming through there as well. Using a Stanley knife, there are the basic gloves that we provide won't give you protection from Stanley knife. There are more protective gloves available if you're developing skills or and thank you for your suggestions there. Okay, so like anything, your health and safety on site is really important, and you are pivotal in maintaining that. But if you've any concerns, then please raise them earlier. The earlier the better. We need time. Things happen and things change, and we need time to step in and support as needed. So speak to your site supervisor in the first instance. If you have one, if you're working on your own, ring Warren direct. Anyone can ring Warren if you have a health and safety concern. If you can't get hold of Warren or your site supervisor, then there's always a director in the office. So speak to one of the office staff members. And if you want to do it anonymously, you're more than welcome to send it via email. Okay, so if you want more information, the Health and Safety Executive is the website, the go-to website that underpins all the Toolbox talks, as does the CITB, and both websites are available on the screen. A quick Google search will also direct you to that as well. So we've come to the end of our presentation. Thank you for your participation.